Who's that? What's up? I see a new follower. Give me a sec. Let me see who that was. I hear the music. Jim. Oh, shoot, Jim. I love it. Jim, are you really here? Is that really you? I mean, I don't think anybody would be pretending to be you. How's it going? Thanks for joining.
Yeah, not too bad, man. I just saw your message that you were going live and thought I'd jump in. I just signed up for the what's it for Kick.
Nice. Okay, here we go, Jim. Hiroyo, if you want to join, you're welcome to join. Anybody, guys, if you want to join the voice chat, join the voice chat. Ask a question. Nice. Okay, your audio sounds great, Jim. So, you know, Hiroyo asked quickly. She's also a musician. She has NFTs and different collections out, and she's an experienced musician who is also pretty heavily into Web3, right? Thank you, Tijen, for the response. She's asking maybe if you could give a little bit of information on the platform, just a little bit of extra feedback or something like that. I can't remember her exact question. Oh, sorry.
First, please let me say, Jim, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too.
Yay! Yay! I'm so happy to talk with you. This is first time for me, but thanks. We are all getting exciting.
Yeah, I mean, Justin's been playing around with the platform for a good few months now. It's been something that's kind of growing. It didn't start out as a music idea. It really started out as more of an audio idea, and it's then just because I used to be a musician before I got into crypto. It's kind of evolved into what it is now, which is getting really exciting because it's kind of sparking a bit of a potential, like a real revolution for creators to be able to put ourselves at the center of a new financial framework. But on the face of it, it's just a fun sequencer to play with. But once people start inscribing music and then distributing it on chain, it's going to open up a lot of doors for creators.
I see that's the Justin talking about. I think just could you explain more about this platform, Justin or Jim, or I want to know.
Definitely, Jim. Go for it, please.
So, I mean, it started out as
first time for me. Yeah.
So I was looking for ways to get audio onto the blockchain. Obviously, as Ordinals, it's very expensive to get audio onto the blockchain. So I started experimenting with the idea of, what if I was to put the musical elements on the blockchain? So if I put a kick drum and a snare drum and a hat, and then I was to then inscribe a basic sequencer that could allow me to resequence those sounds. Could I start making new music? And the experiments were super successful. It's just a very interesting concept. But then when I started testing it with some code, I was really surprised at the results. And so I've now got on Audionals.com. There's now the new version is a 16-channel sequencer. I've inscribed an 8-channel sequencer, which is powering 8-channel compositions that people can make with the 8-channel sequencer. You can create a mix, and then you can inscribe that mix as a very small JSON file, which just basically lists the audio files that you're accessing and when they are being triggered. But the new version will allow much more expression. It's 16 channels plus it's got 64 sequences in length, so you can compose something that's up to around about 11 minutes for a single song, which then can be inscribed as something that's just a few kilobytes.
Wow. It's very new experience. I want to join and make some music.
Oh, get in there. I mean, I added, when I first built the thing, it was really just an experiment. So the one that I've inscribed doesn't have save and load, but the one on Audionals.com now has save and load, so you can sort of get a mix going. It is still very much a beta version, so I'm sort of working on it as we speak. But you can get a mix up, and then if you hit the save button in the bottom right, there's a save and load button. You hit save, it just saves your mix as a JSON file, just a small text file. So then you could go away and then come back, and then all you've got to do is press the load button and you can load in that JSON. It's also really neat for sharing. Join the Discord. There's a Audionals Discord. I know Justin's probably got a link for that, or there is on the Twitter. But if you join the Discord, you can share. I'm trying to get people to sort of share JSONs. It would be great for people to start sort of collaborating on stuff. I know Justin, I think, posted a JSON in there a while ago, which I had to play with. But there's it's very simple process. It just saves as a text file, and then all you got to do is load that same text file, and your mix is back in front of you. And now it started with audio, and then obviously because audio is very expensive, I started investigating other areas, and so I've now built a synthesizer, which I've inscribed a basic version of that, but I've now got a better version which I'll go live on Ordinals in the next week or so, which has a really great arpeggiator, so you can now create bass line and things with this synth, which again, to save an arpeggiated bass line, it would literally be tens of bytes, something that's going to cost a couple of cents for you to kind of inscribe and then pull into another mix. So yeah, it's really interesting, and just the idea of inscribing elements has really opened up a world of once I think some of the big suppliers of soft synths, I've been speaking to someone from Native Instruments, and there's a lot of other companies that could really benefit from getting their plugins on chain, because then those plugins can become part of the processing chain of some very early Bitcoin music, because space grows and more plugins come online, you're going to have a sort of explosion of online audio. It's not audio that's it's not audio that was recorded, it's audio that is created in a processing chain on chain, and it just is executed when you press the button, the processing chain executes, and then you hear that sound. So I was saying to a DJ yesterday, I met up with a producer yesterday who they're actually going to bankroll getting quite a few samples created as Audionals so that people can use them. But I was saying to them, if you get, say, 5 or 10 good sounding kick drums inscribed, and then over the next few months I start to produce more plugins that will add bass or top end, or just general processing, as more processing, people can start to take those original audio samples that may have cost $20 or $30 or $50 to inscribe, but they can now put those through a chain of processes to create new sounds at no cost. And then they can put that into a new song, and then someone else can like the kicked sound in their song, and they can take it from their song with its previous processing, and they can add more processing. And we could get 20 years down the line, and this same kick drum could have been used in 10 million songs. But because of the blockchain and the Merkle tree, every one of those 10 million songs will have an unbreakable chain of rights that leads back to that original kick drum, in so much as in simple terms, because it's in a wallet. In more complicated terms, you could actually attach rights to it. You can you could put add a contract to the file itself, so the file has explicit rights explained, or you could just rely on the fact that that file sits in your Bitcoin wallet, and the structure of one of these songs in 10 years' time, it still contains every step of the process that kick drum's gone through, from song 1 to song 2 to song 5,000. It's going through these chains of processing, but they always lead back to that wallet that holds that sample. And so potentially in the future, you might get the PROs, the performing rights organizations globally, could eventually start to say, look, this is a reasonable framework. We could use this for royalty payments. And then all they've got to do is throw a front end in front of it, which looks at a song, and the song then says, here is every interested party. And it could be thousands by then, because you could, again, you're putting not only musicians into the chain, but also the applications they use. So every plugin, every synthesizer, every reverb unit, whatever every instrument has gone through on its journey is an immutable part of that journey. So even in 10 years' time, with a song that's got that same kick drum sample that's now gone through potentially hundreds of processes to get to its current sound, it's still just a click of a button to give you the address, the Bitcoin address that holds all of those 100 processes right the way back to the audio file itself.
Jim, so we've got some comments in the chat. A couple of them, I'll read a couple. One was, will we one day essentially be able to hook up MIDI to this? Let me ask another one. I'll give you the.
I've done that. The MIDI is what I did with the synth. So
With the
I mean,
synth,
it's
yeah.
not the MIDI sounds, but it's the MIDI control. So you can now, if you go to the inscribed.
I mean, I'm playing some of the notes right now. And I don't know if I know you guys can't hear, but the stream, people on the stream can definitely hear me playing these notes.
So if you go to the inscribed version or the one on Audionals.com and just plug in a controller keyboard. In fact, the keyboard on your computer will also work.
That's what I'm using right now. I'm triggering it with the keyboard.
And just use the keys on your computer. But if you plug in like a little USB MIDI controller keyboard, you can then trigger either audio samples or with the synth. Really the idea is to just use the synth. But MIDI API is a web MIDI API is already part of browsers. I haven't really investigated this much. It was just something I found over the last few days. But I believe that we probably can access actual MIDI sounds because they're not on chain strictly, because they are part of the web audio library. But I still think we can probably use them. It does mean that they wouldn't necessarily. I mean, I can't imagine it disappearing in our lifetime. It will only improve most likely. But if Armageddon arrived and all that was left was the blockchain, the MIDI parts of those things wouldn't actually exist on the on-chain songs because they would have been accessing the MIDI sounds in the browser. But these libraries are also remarkably small. It's something I looked into. I think the web MIDI, or no, just the MIDI.js, it's something like. It's like around 100 kilobytes or something. It's like $100 or $200 to inscribe the library, because that's what you have to do with some of these things. It's like the 3.js, which is the 3D library, which I was months ago in early Ordinals. I was actually trying to recreate parts of the library. It's a big library, and I didn't have the funds to inscribe the whole thing, so I was actually pulling it apart, taking the bits that I needed to create my own mini 3JS library on chain so that I could do some cool 3D stuff, in the early days. And then when I was kind of halfway through that process, which was around a month, I then go on a chat. I think it was the Ordinals show, and I was introduced to Danny from On-Chain Monkeys, who then said, yeah, I've already done it, and then DM'd me the link, which actually about 2 weeks later they then went public with it anyway, and they said here is the link to the library we inscribed. But that's all it is. That's the thing that really excites me about this, working in this new environment of using the blockchain as a single domain hard drive. I mean, obviously, we don't want to litter it, but that's partly why I'm really into what I'm doing here, because this is modular. This is not designed to be repetitive. When you're inscribing songs, even albums or anthologies that are created in this environment can all still be distributed on a player that is way smaller than an average Bitcoin transaction in terms of the space it takes up on the blockchain, because it's around, I think I've got the current player down to 400 bytes, so that's less than half a kilobyte.
It's really tiny.
And I think I could probably get the future players down to around 200 bytes.
So
using recursion.
Using recursion, right? So yeah, like I mentioned to you earlier, I was in one of the spaces. I think was it the Ordinals show? I think it was the Ordinals show. Anyway, I was just talking about this and talking about BitVM, talking about Audionals, but I mentioned we were talking about BitVM, but I mentioned.
I wanted to ask you about BitVM.
Right.
I still haven't.
There's a lot there, and in even Atomicals. I don't know if you've done much research on Atomicals, but
that's the first time I've heard it.
Okay, so Atomicals is essentially, I don't want to say it like this, but theoretically, based on the documentation, it seems like it's got Ordinals beat in every way. But I don't want to just say like, oh, it's better, because it's still, in the works. But it's projected to do everything that Ordinals does and more, and maybe better and cheaper and this and that. So it's something that we definitely want to keep our eyes on. Now, because the ordinal space, I think, had so much, I guess, drama. And I don't know if you're even involved in it. I hope you're not, because I'm sure not. I don't think I was involved in it, but a lot of drama, a lot of the, I guess the social leaders had their dramatic situations, and I feel like the ordinal space is kind of different now. It's a little less inviting.
Jaded.
Yeah, it used to be exciting. Not that it's not, but the amount of spaces that were going on a day about ordinals, from January, February, March, April, May, June, July.
Oh my God. And there was like 25,000 people turning up, some of them.
Right.
But having said that, I've seen like just the last Ordinals show was back in the tens of thousands.
Right. That's good. That is
so
healthy.
I think things are picking up, but I'm interested to know more about Atomicals. I mean,
Atomicals, it's something that we don't want to sleep on. That's all I'm going to say. I don't think it's going to get as much adoption as Ordinals got, as quickly as Ordinals did, because Ordinals, I guess, in a way, they just kind of came out of nowhere, for at least for some. And it was the first, I guess I could say it's the first of its kind. And then now we have other things happening on Bitcoin, BitVM, and other protocols that are coming out. So I don't necessarily think that they're going to get as much interest as the Ordinals did, but it still ultimately may be better tech. I do have a question though. This is based on a comment here. Well, I'm really just reading the comment, and it says, are you looking for investors? Where do you see this project going in the next 5 years? And do you have a roadmap, or are you interested in any partners? That was a question, or a series of questions.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going through that process now because I've done all this on my own. It's been a bit overwhelming, kind of trying to deal with everything on every front. I think probably my weakest point, with the project is design. I think it looks pretty crappy, but I'm not a designer. I'm not even a developer. I'm kind of just putting in the elbow grease and piecing together code in as modular a way. This is the thing that I found really useful as a novice coder. The putting things onto the blockchain and using recursion enforces a very modular approach, which actually is very good for someone who's not a great coder, because you can start to work with small files that component parts, and so that's been quite useful in the journey in putting stuff on chain. But yeah, I'm going through the process of whether it's investment, which I'm open to, or grants, because someone thought I've had the last week. I went and presented at Bitcoin Unleashed and had some really interesting.
That was in England, yes?
Yeah, that was in London on what was it? It was on Thursday, I think, and that was really interesting. I had lots of people coming and talking to me afterwards, and then one of the things that kind of occurred to me, sort of because a lot of the chat that I was doing there was really about my own experiences with performing rights organizations in the past, and how I've been badly let down, but the flip side of that is my wife once received like £12,000 payment from PRS for a song that she didn't write. And she actually called up PRS and they said, "Oh, we didn't mean that." And she says, "Do I send it back?" And they said, "No, we'll take it out of future payments." And then 3 months later, the next quarter, another like $3,000 turned up, and she called them back and they said, "Oh, look, just stop calling us." And it's like, it's in that way, it's a little bit swings and roundabouts, but we shouldn't have to put up with that. And like going through that process made me think, yeah, PRS, I had this thing years ago when the Virgin box first came out, the very, very first Virgin box. And I had one, and for ages I still didn't know, even though I had the box. My wife and I were still watching live TV. We just didn't, we knew it was digital TV, but we didn't, I think maybe we knew you could pause it, but we didn't know there was on demand. We didn't know you could just watch a show wherever you want to watch it. And it was just this menu button. And I just never pushed the menu button, but I started getting calls from friends all across the country saying, "Keep hearing your music on TV." And for a little bit, I was like, "Oh, I don't know what that's about." My publishers, I wasn't expecting anything to be on TV, but it was like it was people calling me from Scotland, from Wales. It was like going on here? And then one day I pushed the menu button, and me and my wife were like, oh my God, there's all this on-demand thing. And then 5 minutes in, there's my song. Oh. And it was the music, it was like it was like 5 songs in a rolling theme for the menu. It's now, I think it's been defined as a squawk channel or something like that. But at the time, so I called PRS and I'm like, I'm surely owing a lot of money for this. This is quite a big deal. This is like every box in the country is just playing my music on loop. And PRS said, we don't have a definition for what this is, because it's not a channel.
Right.
And I mean, I must have gone through it for 6 months because I was figuring I was probably owed 50 grand or something. But in the end, I got nothing. I mean, I don't even know. My publishers didn't even know that the song had been used. So I don't even know what chain it had gone through. But the whole thing was just a debacle. But it did make me think that perhaps PRS is perhaps someone that I should be approaching to say, hey, do you want to like make up for obviously the money between me, but just make up for the general low quality of service that you're able to offer musicians? Why don't you fund my research with a grant? Because it's to think how far I've managed to take this on my own, and all I really need is a bit of funding, a few, the idea from the very beginning, in fact, was that it would instantly be a community thing. I didn't think I'd be carrying it this long. I kind of proposed because to go back to the Audionals thing, I proposed a new way of storing audio on the blockchain, which is converting the audio to base 64 text. There's no compression involved. It's a lossless format. So you can convert. I initially converted, a WAV and then an MP3 to text, which means you can put it in a JSON file, and then that JSON file can now contain additional metadata. If it's not, it is enough really as an owner to have it in your wallet. But if you want to have your name on it, you maybe have explicit rights you want to state. You've got different rights for usages or deals with international PROs. Again, the JSON file could have a field for every PRO in the world, so all the PROs could even use your song file itself as the source of truth for global territories, rights across territories. And this JSON format could even help in some way with the communication between PROs, because all of that is done by humans really, and it's the whole the human element of royalty is the problem, is the issue. It's not something that humans can really do. It's just so complicated, and this new world creates such a high resolution of everything, every aspect of what's going on, how many plays, because your song is now, this redefines what a song is, because traditionally a song is a recording which was created often on tape, and then it was bounced into stems, and then those stems, which is the individual channels or the individual mixes, the vocals and the drums, and those stems are then remixed into the song, and there's always a recording. Whereas this new Web3 way of working, there's no recording, there's just a series of instructions. It's almost like the player that I've created is almost like I've just given someone the button for my Logic. If people work with DAWs, you might use Logic, or I know I like FL Studio, or there's
Cubase, Pro Tools,
all these different platforms. And despite the creative process might take months, from the musician sitting down and putting a kick drum in channel 1 and then a snare in channel 2 and then processing them, at the end of the day, even after 3 months, when they're ready, when that song's ready, they're still pushing the play button in Logic, which is now executing this chain of production of all these sounds to produce the song. And working in this Web3 environment, all you're really doing is packaging up that play button. So you're actually packaging up the entire song in its totally raw format. And all I've done with the player is just to take away the sequencer. So you don't see the sequencer, you don't see the processes. They are in the song file, but now you've just got a player which just has a play button and a pause button, and you press play, but you are in effect executing the project. And that's the thing that I think I suddenly realized is possible, because nowadays the entire chain, it might briefly go to audio sometimes, because musicians might work in the digital realm, but then they bounce it down to stems, and then they put those stems into like a WAV form, and then they send the stems to a masterer, who then puts them back into a DAW, and then you're back in the digital chain again. And actually, you don't necessarily have to do that. You can just send the stems in the form of a project to the masterer, who then just carries on the chain. And so it occurred to me that from the creation of the beginning of a song through to the mastered mixed version, it's 100% possible to do that entirely in a digital processing chain. And so that then means that we could do it on Bitcoin. So you could have all of your elements inscribed, and so literally at the end of the entire process, there's a person who's written, people have created the samples. Some other people have taken those audio samples and have processed them to make them sound different, and now they've been pulled into a song, and now that song has been mixed, and then it's been passed on to a masterer who's got all of his favorite plugins on chain, so he's now run it through that process, and then you get to the end, and now it's the masterer's play button that we're basically packaging up and sending, but it still nonetheless carries the entire process with it. So when you press play, you are programmatically assembling this song. It doesn't exist as a recording. It doesn't even exist at all if no one's listening to it. But it's a program. So you press play on the player, and because it's a program, it's an executable file. You can also have, again, recursively, so it doesn't add to the size of the player, but you can recursively say, oh, here's another component that I want to report plays. So you could have produced 10,000 players, which you've distributed. You've sold these players. Each of them cost you 10 or 20 cents to make, and these are your albums. And those albums are a bit like, people. I do compare them to CBDCs, central bank digital currencies, because these are like central creator digital currencies or something like that, because this is the same thing. It's a little tiny piece of code, but it works for you. So in the same way that a CBDC, like how China have massively adopted it, and there's a lot of the Chinese yuan is in a digital format. It's a CBDC, and some of the dangers people are talking about that is a currency that China control. They can sort of lock it up. It can report to them. They can see what people are doing with it. And in the same way, these players do the same thing. You send out these 10,000 players, and now if you've programmed the player to report in any way, it could be telling you, who every single player can be reporting back to you how many times people are listening to it, which songs are being listened to the most.
Right. I got a question, Jim. Actually, I want to do this because I do have one question that comes from the chat, but I also want to go back for everybody who's listening who may not know, because we're saying a few things like recursion, we're saying PRS, PRO. I'm just going to clarify a little bit and allow you to dive in a little bit deeper, but also to, I guess, I don't want to say wrap up, only in the sense that, because I don't want to keep you here for so long, right? We definitely do this type of thing on Wednesdays typically, but now I guess Thursday. I'll check the chat, actually. Sorry, you sent a message or a tweet that shows the next time you're going to go live.
Oh yeah, so for our chat, I'm doing that. It's in about 3 hours.
Okay, so that will be today. So let's go back quickly. PRS, we're talking about Performing Rights Society. PRO, I guess you're referring to Performing Rights Organizations. Long story short, these are organizations that will collect and distribute royalties to music creators as long as your music is played or performed in a public space, right? Did I miss anything there? Like television, live broadcasting, recording, streams?
All of the above. They are supposed to be the non-profit. That's kind of an important part. A non-profit that organizes and administers, the rights for all musicians. They are the backbone for any musician who is surviving as a musician, is most likely doing so because of PRS. Because things are so convoluted, and now it was already convoluted before streaming, but now that you have these almost infinite streaming platforms popping up, but the main one being Spotify, that only further complicated things. And in the end, Spotify have now created a new hybrid PRO because they don't answer to the PROs. They are a PRO. So they now administer the royalties for everyone on Spotify, but they are not a non-profit. And not only are
Definitely
they
not.
not a non-profit, they are their majority shareholders are like the three biggest record labels.
Right.
And so, for me, this is just a massive conflict of interest.
It's actually absolutely absurd when you really think about it.
It's really crazy, isn't it? And this is just another thing that just as musicians we just have to put up with, because anyone would just any big players would just turn around to a musician and say, you don't want to deal with this, and they're right. It's just an absolute minefield, but it doesn't have to be. And I think it's become this obfuscation, or it's not deliberate obfuscation, but the fact that we need people to deal with the amount of obfuscation that exists for creators has now, I think, become endemic to the point where it is kind of self-perpetuating, and no one's really worried about making more mess, because more mess means more work, but not for the creator. Everything just means less money for the creator, whatever it is. less of the pie for you, less of the pie for you. And this way of working in Web3 really flips everything on its head, because if we do get to the point where enough music exists in this environment, I mean, obviously I've done like one song, there's the Colours done a song as well, so there's like two players, 2 songs out there at the moment. But once there's millions, billions of songs even, and the PROs look at this network and they go, hey, look, there's a whole music network where every element of a song, every wallet address is expressed in every song. Maybe we should use this as the payment rails. And the minute that happens, instantly the creator becomes the center of the economy. There's no room for middlemen. There's no gatekeepers. The song is just distributing the money ultimately, and so the money is just going to the songwriter, the sample creators, the sample owners, the plugin owners. That's where the money's going. So at this point, if a musician wants a label or wants a publisher or wants a radio plugger, then they can employ them. They don't have to have them. It's not just this uncontrollable thing that they just have to let like countless other people run for them. All the previous gatekeepers become nothing more than enablers, and it's like, okay, hi, it's your publisher. Did I do a good job this month? Yeah, you did. Yeah, send your invoice. That's how it works with every other profession, just not us.
So, right. Okay, so quickly, the chat that we typically have, Jim runs on. I'm going to go to the website right now. I've already posted the link, guys. So the chat is right here at Bitcoin Live DB. Well, essentially, just search Bitcoin Live or click the link in the chat, right? So I can't guarantee 100%, guys, today that I'll be available at 4 p.m. I think so. Some days I'm like perfectly available at 3, and then the chat happens like 30 minutes later and something else comes up. But I always set an alarm, Jim, by the way. Every Wednesday and Thursday, I set an alarm.
No worries. I mean, I'll post I've got a Discord link here, which I'll post in the chat here.
Sure. I don't know if you can post yet. I don't know if it'll work for you to actually post, but I did post a Discord link. I already did, and I'll post it again. Okay. Yeah, may.
Tonight's really going to be an AMA I was planning on, so I've just sort of said to people,
I see.
Just come along, jump into the Discord. I'm going to hopefully have another go at the black hole stuff shortly to see if I can improve the audio for everyone in the Discord.
Okay.
But yeah, it'd be great to just get people in. I love people grilling me, asking questions. So
right. Let me make sure I got it though, guys. Okay, it's right here. So I posted the link. I just posted the link. Let me just double check it's the right one. It ends with T4B. Yeah. So I just posted that. Send me a DM, Jim, and let's stay in Jim, you're in the Discord, right? You joined my Discord. That's why you know of this.
Yes, I'm in the Discord.
Okay. Yeah. So I'm gonna pin the Discord for Audionals, right? And you guys see it? Yes, it's right there. It should be pinned. But send me a DM, Jim, and let's stay in contact, okay?
Yeah, cool, dude. I've got to run now, so I've just been, my wife's calling me.
Sure, yeah, like it's a good time, actually.
Hopefully, if you are around, in about 3 hours. But otherwise, anyone else more than welcome to join and come in and just join in the chat, and let's talk about the future of music.
Absolutely. I'd be happy to. So there, Hiroyo joined your Discord. Let me check here. Yeah, so good. So we're all good. Guys, everybody, I know we have more questions, and I did read the chat. There's so many comments. I will not address all the comments now, just because the man has to go. I'm going to do some other stuff as well for today, and I'll do my best to come back here again to at least to join the stream. Whether I don't know if I'll personally live stream, but I would join Jim's talk, and we can talk on-chain music and stuff. Hiroyo, thanks again for joining. DGen, of course, thanks for joining in the chats. Anybody else who's just joining the stream for the first time today, thank you for joining. Why not follow Jim as well? Check out the Audionals platform. You guys know I spoke about this a little while ago. I'm just going to show it just to show a bit. I did that on my one of my YouTube channels.
Let me say anything, okay?
Please go for it. Yeah,
it's amazing. While your guys' conversation, I'm playing with that site, that platform. So amazing! What the hell going on? I can create my music
NFT
on that platform, right? Yeah, thank you, Jim. What a wonderful.
You're very welcome. The more people I have using it, the better. Like I said, it is a bit buggy. Because I'm not a very good developer, but I'll get there. And again, if we do I'm hoping that once I do find some funding in some way, that there will be more developers, and people will realize that they can just create their own plugins, and then those plugins will be part of the early chain. The earlier people start creating plugins, reverb units, synthesizers, the more likely they are going to be used in future compilations. So yeah.
Hiroyo asked about mastering, so that I was gonna say that like on-chain mastering, and I said, essentially when people start to create different modules, different plugins, yeah, we're gonna start to see a lot of interesting things.
And people, a master could just go, if this starts to take off. I mean, some people have suggested I try and get some really big artists involved. There's some of these big artists, really big artists are really into this idea of. Firstly, they don't need the money, so they're not worried about releasing a song that they say to people, hey, this song's difficult to listen to, it's difficult to play on the radio, blah blah blah, because there's no recording. But I just kind of need things to kind of pick up, and once it starts taking off, a masterer could go to the company that they use all their plugins and say, can you please inscribe all your plugins so I can use them? And they can explain to them that, if you do this, your plugins will now be part of this financial thing as well. Just, inscribe the plugins, store them in the company wallet, and now at some point in the future, if this does become a payment rail, your plugins will just start earning money organically.
Crazy, Jim. The idea, the vision is incredible. Guys, everybody, thank you. I don't want to keep Jim too long.
Thanks for having me on, dude.
Yeah, thank you for joining.
I'll speak to you again soon.
Thank you.
Cool.
Wow, thank you
Lovely to
much.
meet you, Hero. Speak to you guys soon. I'll see you later.
Yes.
Sure.
All right, Jim, take it easy. Woo, that's amazing. All right, Hiroyo, everybody, thank you for joining, guys. As usual, we always have some good times here. Never know what's going to happen. I didn't plan this. Jim jumped in the Discord, or he's followed, on Kick, and then he jumped in the Discord. Well, he's already in the Discord, but he hopped on in the channel to chat. Hiroyo, we're going to do some cool things on chain, right now with the Bitcoin Ordinals. It's a little pricey, to be honest, to inscribe sounds, because it's not cheap, to be honest. It could be $50 to put up a few sounds, but once those sounds are on chain, they're kind of, in a sense, there forever.